Radio app? Well,
let's do it.
Everything. Tap radio to listen to live radio stations from across the country and around the world. Need a playlist to fit your mood or set the mood? We got them, from working out to chilling out and everything in between. And nobody has more podcasts than the free iHeartRadio app. Uncover unbelievable true crime stories or laugh out loud comedy podcasts from the biggest names in the business. Download the free iHeartRadio app now and discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Yes, we are back in the studio here today, live, local, and bringing you all the things affecting us here in the borderland, or at least as much of it as we can squeeze into 2 hours on the program here. Always a little bit of a challenge, even as we are, back in the studio again today after yesterday. So thank you all for bearing with us, for the kind messages. Still getting over it a little bit, you might notice, but don't worry, I am well fortified with many different medications, teas, and, well, hopefully well wishes. But if you're all wondering what we're going to be doing today, well, we've got a quite packed docket for you, as always. Again, missing a day, but not missing a step in all the things affecting us here. Yes, got a little bit about some political arrests that we will discuss as well as some political campaigns, or rather a specific campaign kicking off from the region here today. What is actually going on with the relative numbers, the fundraising there, we'll get into that as well. And some more going on with local politics. Could the mayor lose his veto? That's something coming up, and we'll be discussing with our news partners over there at KFOX 14, as we do on most Wednesdays here. Ed Munoz wishing us well there. Glad I'm doing better as well, because I know we couldn't put up with 2 days of this. I mean, as much as we love our previous interviews and stuff like that, time keeps marching forward, and if we miss much more, we're just going to be buried by it, and we'll have to do just weeks of shows just to catch up. So glad to be back with you as well. And so thanks for chiming in over there. If you want to do so over in the social media, one of the better ways you can chime in during the show, again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Also dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Robbie Flores and Monica Cervantes. And we'll be getting to, of course, the phone lines a little bit later in the program, as we almost always do, pretty much always do. Can't remember a day we recently, except for in out of office time, when we have not gotten to those phone calls. So if you want to get us that way, those will be available in short order. In the meantime, though, a lot to get to. So just because it was definitely going to be one of our top things yesterday, and has continued to develop here a bit today, we did have El Paso Congresswoman Veronica Escobar arrested during the Supreme Court protest, among other things. There's been a lot more that has come up with it, but symbolism. Definitely a factor of it here. Having attended a few protests in D.C. in front of the White House and other such political institutions previously, it's never really a question of if you will or won't get arrested, but rather how far you're willing to go. In fact, I remember I was specifically there randomly for not apropos of anything around here. It was protesting mountaintop removal coal mining going on in West Virginia. I know, a little bit random from our area, but stick with me. And essentially, it was there enough for some of the organizers to say that if you so choose so, you can show your sign of civil disobedience by doing something like, I don't know, something on the order of like chaining yourself to the fence of the White House, which may think would be a symbolic protest thing, but is also definitely going to get you arrested. So if you want to, you can. It's an option. It's kind of built in if you're not familiar with that level of protest culture, which I certainly wasn't at the time. So it's never really a question of how it is or isn't going to work. But of course, a release out from Congresswoman Escobar's office about her decision in order to do so, and the pictures that are up and available online on hers as well. So that's not exactly surprising. I know there's been a lot more discussion about one particular person that was arrested during this AOC. You may have heard about that. and not sure about any of their circumstances or what did or didn't happen with how they were being led away. But all I can tell you is that for sure was seeing the statements and getting some of the fundraising messages coming out of this already. So I'm not saying that any level of civil disobedience is mostly performative, but at a certain level, it also could be considered as such. But in other terms of a different campaign kicking off, Robert Francis Beto O'Rourke, former El Paso congressman, has now kicked off his 49-day campaign tour out of the city of El Paso, of course. And some of the questions that have come up about this whole effort, it's not quite on the order of magnitude of what he did during the previous statewide campaign when he was, of course, challenging down Texas Senator Ted Cruz, and that failed, but depending on who you ask, just missed it kind of mentality that seems to have come out of it anyway. Not quite that whole extent of visiting every single county in Texas, but doing multiple visits per day. And some of the interesting things that have been being made about this is particularly the level of fundraising. Now, much has been written about it, but putting it in perspective here, I do find useful because, of course, there was the big headline that O'Rourke did outraise his gubernatorial opponent, of course, sitting Republican Governor Greg Abbott. O'Rourke having gotten $27.5 million to Greg Abbott's just shy of $25 million, giving you some round figures there. And sure, those are significant, but also the expenses. Abbott has already been for this last period that this has been being measured for, has spent just shy of $30 million, including at least one $20 million statewide buy. So proving the willingness to already dig into that war chest versus, let's call it $9.5 million on the part of O'Rourke. So digging it to a bit, but as I have long counseled and said, that underestimating the campaign of Greg Abbott and his stability or stayability within any particular form of office. I mean, he's been a long time political animal here in Texas, so to call him anything besides an experienced operator would absolutely be a mistake. The war chest still on hand. So remember, Abbott's campaign, having just spent just shy of $30 million, still has $45.7 million left on hand versus O'Rourke's $23.8 million. So there's still a lot of money going to be potentially spent here. I mean, I'd be kind of curious to see. It might be a decent signal for down the road on what exactly is the inclination of the Abbott campaign, on how willing they're going to be to dip down, because he never exactly exhausted the well, even in this very contentious primary campaign. Then again, an argument could be made that, well, essentially, Abbott never really regarded any of his primary opponents. I am hard-pressed to remember any, if at all, advertisements that even mentioned the primary opponents. Of course, all of the primary opponents had to punch up at Abbott, but whether he deigned to even mention them, if anyone has an example that they can recall, please send it to me, because I'm not sure it happened. So if we see it towards the end of this campaign that Abbott is starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel, that might be a better sign than most I could think of about how they consider this campaign going. For their part, I do know that Governor Greg Abbott has said essentially that O'Rourke's money is not a threat, but that his marked money is a threat, but his policies are not, quoting the El Paso Matters reporting on this, even as, again, that campaign trip has started. El Paso Matters, quoting the governor on this, yeah, there's a lot more coming on this. And also, specifically Abbott's lead campaign consultant, David Carney, said that his money is a threat, but that is always a threat. But Beto and his policies, whether he's for Title 42 one day, he's in a different part of the state and against it, he flip-flops and he's wishy-washy. Carney said, we're not worried about him, we're worried about his out-of-state money. There was also some reporting going on, particularly in the Texas Tribune, among other things, talking about one particular couple that has, over the campaign season, given roughly about $2 million to the O'Rourke campaign specifically. So there's definitely money coming in, and this is by no means over. Probably will continue on, but we'll of course keep you updated as we do in our continuing mission to let you know what's going on and affecting us here in the borderland. So that's going to take us through that next break of the hour here right now. First break of the hour, I guess I should say, as we are back in the saddle again today and talking about all the many things affecting us here in the borderland. Coming out of this break, we'll be talking even further about some of those situations. Again, you may have heard a little bit of kerfuffle over city council, not that it's been particularly lax in that lately. even more and even changes proposed to how city council would even function. So again, getting into that next break right now. Comments coming in on over the social media if you're wanting to chime in that way. And of course, getting those phone lines a little bit later. But in any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On your El Paso traffic, Gateway West at Hawkins, an accident reported. The right lane is partially blocked. Memorial Freeway eastbound at Railroad, that earlier crash is cleared there. An accident reported Trowbridge north of East Paisano Drive. And road construction has the left lane closed on North Desert Boulevard northbound between Trans Mountain and Vinton. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Red Pilled America is the storytelling show everyone is talking about. This week, we reveal the agenda behind the phrase cultural appropriation and how it's being used to keep you in check. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
New, used, and antique rifles, revolvers, and shotguns, gun parts, accessories, and all kinds of fun stuff you don't want to miss. Get fired up at the Provost Gun Show, Saturday, July 23rd, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Almeida Shrine, 6331 Alabama. General admission, $8. Active duty military pay, $7. Children 12 and under, just $5. ATM available on site. A parent must accompany persons under 18. The Provost Gun Show. See you there July 23rd and 24th.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with Ziprecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, Ziprecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on Ziprecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try Ziprecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing all live in this pre-recorded interview on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Getting to more of those comments, questions, and all the things y'all have here in just a bit. But of course, joining us right now here in studio, we are joined, as we are most Wednesdays, by Stephanie Seifert, investigative reporter with our news partners over there at KFOX 14. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here.
So we've been talking a lot about some of the things going on with government, your investigative reporting, and one of the bigger things that came out this week, you were watching some of the El Paso City Council meetings earlier this week, and not that it wasn't going to be a probably pretty busy ballot for local voters, but a few new things have been added on there. We've been talking a bit about it on this show, but the ad hoc charter advisory committee, some of the recommendations have now been coming forth to city council. So there's a couple different ways that changes to the city charter can be done or proposed. One of the ones, some of the petitions we've talked about, but this advisory committee, it comes directly to a vote before city council. And at least one of the items been gaining some attention there has been dealing with, well, how even those votes might happen in the future.
Right. So the proposal that we're talking about here is basically to allow the mayor to vote on all city council items, but therefore removing his ability for a veto. And this passed with a 5-2 vote. So of course there was a lot of discussion on this item. One of the representatives wanted comparisons of what other cities are doing, if mayors in other cities have that veto power, if they just have maybe just the ability to vote on items, and exactly how that would work. They used the city of Laredo as a comparison to El Paso. And in that case, the mayor is a non-voting member of city council unless there's a tie. So he does hold veto power. So like I said, there was a lot of discussion on this, and this isn't the first meeting where we see this come up. Ultimately, the mayor felt that in order to keep a checks and balances, that veto power should stay in place. And he thinks that the way that it's running right now is the way that it should stay.
And of course, the veto has come up previous to this. I think it was very much highlighted because of, well, essentially around the city manager's contract, because that is, of course, the second instance of where the mayor in this term of office anyway has used that veto authority, previously on some issuance of certificates of obligation. In both circumstances, there was a lot of, there were some sharp words exchanged, even from the dais there within city council here. So I guess I'm not surprised that this has come up here, though it's important to know that this is not by any means the final step that will be coming with this issue.
Right. So then these proposed amendments are going to be placed on the November ballot and then voted on, possibly implemented into the city's charter.
And this is only one of them. There are a few more that some have also been posting and talking about. So we'll certainly get into those as well as they come up later on. But it is important to note that what we're talking about here, even if they are things that you like or don't like, they will be on the ballot in November, ultimately going to voters as city charter amendments have to, because this is beyond an ordinance or anything like that. So it will be coming up. So just another one of those very many varied reasons that I say people should pay attention and go out and vote. But we're getting into more personal soapbox issues here because, well, city council has gone on before that. And of course, we're still in the whole UMC countdown period for the potential issuance of that debt from the county on behalf of UMC. There have, of course, been more reports that you all have been working on as well here, including, of course, being remiss to not mention the El Paso water story that you were previewing for us last week, and just going over those 4 tips again for what people can do if they're having issues with the billing. Probably a good idea. I know a lot of people out there we talked about it last week, but reiterating them for those who may have missed it.
Right. So that one came as a result of a lot of people having issues getting through to the customer service center for El Paso Water. The wait times, we got a hold of the call logs for El Paso Water for the month of May and part of June. And it showed that for the most part, the call center gets more than 1,000 calls a day. They only have about 15, 16, maybe 17 or 18 call reps a day. Right. And really, they should be having more than that, like about 30, if not a little more than that, to be able to man the call center. So yes, there were delays. There's also the issue of people were running into issues with the new billing system that El Paso Water put into place. Right. So that also created a high volume of calls. So that, coupled with not enough employees to answer those calls, obviously was causing very long wait times for customers. And so we went to El Paso Water. We asked them about it, what they were doing. They were very, very well aware of this issue. And there were, as I mentioned, the 4 tips that they suggested people do if they haven't been able to try and get a hold of a customer service rep. And so you could try email. You could do their callback option, which basically you leave your number, and then once a rep is available, you get a call from them. You could call during non-peak hours, which are 7 to 8 a.m. and 5 to 6 p.m. on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Remember, Mondays and Fridays are considered the busiest for calls. So try to avoid doing that on Mondays and Fridays at any time at all. And then the fourth would be checking to see if the issue that you're calling about can be resolved online. So this new online portal has a lot of new options that weren't there before. So maybe if it has to do with, making a payment, stopping or starting service, or anything of that, it's listed on the website, all the options that you can basically do on that website of what you're able to get settled, if you will.
Right.
And so those are the four things that they recommend that you do to try and avoid staying on the line for about half an hour was the average time that, based on the call logs, that's what we were seeing, that people were hanging up after about 28 minutes.
So it may be frustrating, and the idea of blocking out time on your calendar to deal with a call is not appealing, and I can understand that fully. Sticking it out is going to be the best way to deal with it, along with these other tips as well.
Right. So, ultimately, obviously, if you stay on the line, eventually someone will get to you. El Paso Water did stress, though, they are hiring, and they have increased the starting pay for these call center reps to $17 an hour. It used to be $11. So I think that just goes to show the need. They're urgently, very actively trying to hire. And so all of that information, the 4 tips I mentioned, as well as where you can apply, is listed on the web story at kfoxtv.com under the investigative tab.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Stephanie Seifert, investigative reporter with our news partners there at KFOX 14. Again, as you just mentioned, if you want to find out any of the information about her stories, her work, etc., kfoxtv.com, and then under the KFOX 14 Investigates tab. And of course, so you have some stories coming up here ahead of the next time we talk, including one tonight.
Yeah, so tonight, I have a story that was brought to me by a parent. He had taken pictures of what the court looked like at one of the YMCA facilities where his son played basketball. And so his concern was that there were gaps in the wood. It wasn't, the varnish was all messed up. And so his concern was if one of the kids falls, they're going to not only scrape a knee, but get seriously injured. They could trip on those gaps that are in the wood. And so I took those concerns to the president and CEO of the YMCA of El Paso, Bill Kuhn. He also oversees the facility that I'm focusing on tonight, which is in Santa Teresa. And they have been replaced. They did replace them. But the story is mainly about, what does it take to get facilities, back to an upgraded status, if you will. A lot of these facilities are very old. And this is a nonprofit, which depends on membership, on donations, on grants. And so it's a little bit about the repairs that have been made and what's next for this facility, and how parents can get in contact or who they can contact when they have concerns about the facility, specifically a YMCA facility where their kids play sports.
So again, that'll be coming up tonight, airing on KFOX 14 News at 9, and with the web story posted there concurrently with it, as we have mentioned. But of course, it's not even the only thing in the pipeline. Working on some things already for next week as well, right?
Yes. So the entire summer, ahead of the school year, I have been keeping in contact with all the school districts in El Paso and checking in with them to see what security measures they've put in place for students to be safe at school. So a lot of schools obviously take the summer months to make repairs to the campuses, to maybe add upgrades to campuses. And so I went ahead and went to every single district, and I went to see firsthand, what did you all install? What are you all doing? What is put in place to ensure that, a tragedy doesn't happen here, so that students feel safe? Our newsroom got a lot of calls after the shooting in Uvalde of parents who decided they were no longer sending their kids to school for the last week. It was the last week or 2 weeks of school. And parents here in El Paso said, we're done. We're done with the school year. Kids are not going to school. We just don't feel very, easy about the way that the situation in the country is right now with these shootings. And so I think because there's so much apprehension from parents, we took it upon ourselves to be like, you know what, let's check in on that. Let's see what they have to offer, what they're doing. And all the districts have been very busy all summer, and I'll go into a lot more detail about that at for my story on Monday.
So again, coming up tonight, KFOX 14 News at 9, you're going to be talking about what is going on with some of the YMCA facilities in town. And again, the one you just mentioned there, that coming up for Monday. But even in the meantime, there's been some more reporting that you all have been doing, including a sit down with State Rep Joe Moody representing El Paso, who was, of course, a very important person on the committee, the legislative committee, doing the investigation on that coming out over the weekend early this week. And so a lot of conclusions, things we've talked about, and probably even more fallout coming from that here. And so therefore directly relating to, of course, what you're working on.
Right. So that interview with Joe Moody, he basically talks about what was in the report. There was a lot of I guess misconceptions, if you will, when it was first released by a few media outlets in Texas, and right away there were screenshots of officers or just things flying around Twitter about what, assumptions of what exactly happened. And so
referring there to the video that came out of the entire security video from Robb Elementary there in Uvalde.
Right. That video, once it came out, there were a lot of, that exploded on the internet, really,
of course.
The reaction to that. And so he was able to provide context of what exactly was happening, maybe even explanations as to why the officers were acting the way they were, whether it was in the right or in the wrong. That interview can also be found on our website.
So again, we'll be talking more about that as we have been. But again, joining us here right now has been Stephania Seifert, investigative reporter with KFOX 14. You can catch her work and reports again coming up tonight, KFOX 14 News at 9, but of course always online at kfoxtv.com under the Investigates tab. So Stephania, thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak with us as we do most Wednesdays about what you're working on and what's coming up.
Thank you. Of course, it's always a pleasure to be here.
And so we'll go ahead and take that next break right now and go ahead and open up those phone lines as we do at this point during the program, particularly if you've got anything you want to add on to or suggest here. So that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Otherwise, we'll be back with this and more of the comments also over on the social media after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update. As abortion rights advocates and Democratic lawmakers continue to protest the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, members of the House of Representatives voted on a bill to protect same-sex and interracial marriage out of concern other rights could be at stake. The legislation passed with bipartisan support, 47 Republicans joining Democrats. Supporters of the Respect for Marriage Act note Justice Clarence Thomas's separate opinion suggested the court should reconsider past precedent, including same-sex marriage and access to birth control. But Republicans say the majority opinion did not go that far. And while there's been bipartisan support expressed for family planning, House Democrats say they will put Republicans on the record later this week with a vote on guaranteeing access to contraceptive services. I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We continue to deal with some very hot temperatures, but moisture has now returned, and that will bring a little more cloud cover, and that along with some rain-cooled air, we could be looking at some much cooler temperatures as we get going through the week. But still, tonight will be another very hot area for the borderland, and then as we get through the next few days, expect cooler temperatures. Log on to kfoxtv.com for the very latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries. Wendy's knows everyone hates cold and soggy fries, so they changed theirs to serve them up hot and crispy all day, every day, using only natural cut skin-on fries, prepared to golden goodness and perfectly sprinkled with sea salt. Try Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries today at participating U.S. Wendy's.
Did you know audio memory lasts 6 times longer than visual memory? That's why businesses advertise with iHeartMedia, the #1 audio company in the country. Reach consumers with radio, podcasting, streaming, and more. Make your business a household name and visit iHeartAdvertising.com or call 844-BUY-RADIO. Grow your reach, grow your business. Call iHeartMedia today. Visit iHeartAdvertising.com or call 844-BUY-RADIO.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic, but if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer: regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Governor Kim Reynolds kept Iowa free during the height of COVID. Get to know Governor Kim Reynolds better on The Truth with Lisa Booth. And make sure to listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday and all throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
Over-the-counter pain medications can be bought without a prescription and are intended to reduce fever and temporarily relieve minor aches and pains. There are two main types of over-the-counter pain medicines: acetaminophen and NSAIDs. Although both types of pain medications treat the same symptoms, they work in different ways and have different risks and benefits. That's why it's important to always read and follow the drug facts label on your medicine. If you have any questions, ask your healthcare professional or pharmacist.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know.
Hey, look. Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media outlets out there, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in over on there. And also, we do have that phone line open if that's your preferred way of interacting with the show, as we do after we have Stephanie on. Thanks again to her. And that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Have to address the mild, not really, I think it was tongue-in-cheek controversy for my absence yesterday. No, I had not gotten, as John Browsledon said, inebriated at the previous evening's O'Rourke campaign kickoff. I can't imagine a weirder place to go and try to get drunk, but maybe that's just me. But if that's what plays in your imagination, let me just put those rumors to rest. And I can show you the stack of tissues with my, well, I don't want to get too much into it, but let's just say that the nasal discharge has been significant. And, well, we're trying to bring that down, which is why I may sound a little verklempt here today, but we'll get there before too long. In any case, we are back here live in the studio today. And again, taking those phone calls and comments here. Ed Munoz and Kathy Codry, Flavio Menace, among others, and also dropping those likes and reacts on the Facebook page, Flavio Menace, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. We do appreciate that. Ed Munoz, about the gubernatorial race thing, something that has intrigued me has been Abbott's constant polling at around 47% for months. Abbott has historically won by double digits in every election he's contested. I mean, it's been vacillating around that, like, I think one of the high water marks I recall seeing in favor of the governor was about 46%, but mostly it has been that the O'Rourke campaign has been deep underwater. I think I want to say around like 36% may have been one of the recent biggest spreads I saw. So it hasn't even necessarily been that Abbott has been getting less popular. Well, there has been a level of that. Again, we're just talking about polling now, so a grain of salt is always a decent way to take it here, because, yeah, it's often Catherine Codry saying polls don't really lie, reflect the real voters because pollsters lie. I'm not going to say necessarily pollsters lie, but that the people actually being polled might lie themselves. I mean, it's kind of taken for granted that there will be a sincere reaction, but there's been issues with polls known more or less professionally, frankly, going back to 2016 at the very least, when, among other things, the polling in the presidential election led to a lot of election night predictions that ultimately did not bear out. So, with that in mind, I just take it with a grain of salt. I treat it as a trajectory. One poll may be treated as an aberration, an outlier, a data point well off the scale. But when you start talking about multiple or a series of them, that's when I start maybe looking a little bit closer and wondering, what do we actually have going on here? So a trajectory, perhaps. I mean, it still does have Abbott in the lead, maybe less firmly than he was previously. But again, also those fundraising numbers, pretty significant as well. Whether or not that'll actually change or mean anything, I think more than anything else, this is Abbott's race to lose versus O'Rourke's chance to dominate. At least at this moment, these things do tend to change, and when they do it can often be rapidly. So we'll see if this, again, 47-day tour works out for O'Rourke, and more importantly, what Abbott does to respond and stake his own claim. Doing it more or less pretty much this whole time through using the bully pulpit of the governor's office as it is and making that very clear what they're focused on, and then, letting the campaign arm kind of do its own thing. But we'll see what comes up with that. Some other comments coming in here on the mayor's veto potentially being removed. Again, being voted on, putting on the ballot as of this most recent city council meeting, meaning that no, it's not a guarantee, but it will be up to the voters to decide how they want it to continue on. Catherine Cody asking, why would they want to remove the veto power from the mayor? That's an asinine move. I don't think I'll get in trouble for saying that one. If not, so be it. I think it's worth saying. And Ed Munoz also commented a little bit earlier. I personally don't think it's a good idea to remove the mayor's veto power. We need checks and balances in every system. I think Flaco Jimenez jumping on that as well, only a dum-dum, but we'll see. But also Ed Munoz talking about the property taxes being high. There's a little bit of talk about that, particularly since the technical drop already discussed by City Council would have actually been a lowering of what you're going to pay, because sure, rates go down slightly, but if the base amount that you're going to be paying off of has gone up significantly, doesn't really match up. Economics, it's so fun, isn't it? And RJ saying also about RJ is saying that maybe I should have been essentially drunk. I think he was saying, how else can I listen to Beto? Again, I will just put a kibosh on that. No, I was not drunk at any public events. I dare anyone to find someone who says I was, but in any case, and also Kathy Codry chiming in on that. But RJ further saying that spoiled, whining politicians nowadays want to remove the veto, stack the courts, or stop the filibuster if they don't get their way. We're talking a few different levels of government here, of course, but in the local area, at least, again, one finer point that Estefania did make, and you can find over from our news partners there at KFox14, is the idea that this is more in line with what other cities in the area do, pointing out, at least city staff were in the presentation there, that the only city they were really pointing to was Laredo that still had this similar kind of, the way you'll probably hear it referred to going forward is vestige of a strong mayor system. And I don't know, I guess I am finding myself with mixed emotions about having the idea of the mayor essentially just being another city council member, a member at large, if you will. Doesn't kind of fit the title of mayor to my mind, but we'll see how we get closer to November. And in any case, if you have any reason to feel any way about these items, make sure you're registered to vote. You can bet your buñuelos that I am going to be making sure that as I'm doing that move, I will be updating my address and having no issues to go to the poll to cast my own as we get closer to November. Probably some conversation going on those voter registration efforts. Just as a preview, one of vote.org is a good website to go and find out. Check your registration. See the countdown clock to Election Day, November 8th, and set reminders for yourself here, even where you can. So just also epcountyvotes.com for your local resources. In any case, we have said we have those phone lines open now, so let's go ahead and get back to those here. Again, Kathy Codry with our impassioned plea to vote those idiots out. The standard post that I make every election day, every election that I'm voting in, is vote fool, and oftentimes with an asterisk next to it saying not meant to implicate any candidate or campaign unless, of course, the shoe fits, and then that case you wear it. John Browselton again accusing me of taking the day off so I could go to Beto's campaign stop. Again, if you find a picture of me there, I'll show you a fake picture, but more than that, again, getting drunk at a campaign event just sounds like a special kind of hell to me. I cannot imagine doing such a thing. So if you can, more power to you. In any case, let's get back to those phone lines here. That number to call again, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right, right out of the box. Thanks for coming back. Don't do that again. It's a depressing thing when you're not on the radio. That's number one. Number two,
Fair enough.
this whole Secret Service thing is a disaster. When I had a position in the federal government, at least for sure, once a year, maybe twice, we had to take a test for the Federal Retention Documents Act.
Mm-hmm.
And I always aced that sucker. I always aced it. I didn't even have to look at the questions. I already knew what the answers were. So what is going on with this Secret Service stuff where they're coming up with this mush about they lost this, they lost that? This is so stupid. I can't. It blows my mind. Number two or three. Now, you got this guy, this Donnie Dotard, this orange orangutan, going on right now, 18 months, ladies and gentlemen, and he's still going out there recently in Wisconsin claiming this election was stolen. At what point do you people in Texas, I'm not talking El Paso because I know there's a lot of very, very intelligent people in El Paso, but the rest of you Texans, gotta tell me, when are you going to get it through your brain? This guy is a nut job. That's what I want to say.
Okay, of course, you're entitled to your opinion there, and I'm, of course, glad to be back in the studio here ourselves, even if we're getting over a little bit of the crud here. Hopefully, we'll be able to make it through the show. I have no doubt we will. But, okay, with reference to the whole Secret Service thing, probably see more about that. That would be one of the more, I guess, serious implications potentially coming out of these committee hearings, to be then actually with reference to investigation, though, of course, the question comes up of who investigates the investigators, because it's often not thought about, but the Secret Service existed originally as its own investigative agency, and then protection of the president came along a little bit later. I want to say during the Grant administration or just some of the just after subsequent ones, because, well, there were, after right before that, you might remember, some very serious presidential security concerns that had happened. So doing that and getting that actual investigation probably should be gotten to the bottom of. Otherwise, it kind of starts feeling a little bit like one of those, oh, well, the camera was never recording kind of situations, which, even if it's actually and absolutely true, doesn't exactly bode well for public confidence in the body we are talking about. So hoping they can certainly get to the bottom of that, even though I, again, have those, well, logistical concerns. But otherwise, I do still think that there are some legitimate questions about the way things were handled during the 2020 election. But I mean, we have heard from some saying, well, let's focus on the next one as opposed to trying to relegate the previous one. Where that balance comes out, I think, is still a very serious question within essentially the heart and soul of the conservative movement and the Republican Party in general, and why, even from locally, we've heard from some saying, let's see who the next candidate will be. And I think that this road to 2024 is going to continue to probably be an interesting, if fraught, one.
Okay. I hear everything you say. You know, I just love your the way you come across with the wording and how you present everything. I love it. I just love it. But let me just say you something. To you and everybody else out there, if I show you a white grain of sand and you say, yes, a white grain of sand, I'll show you another one. How many more of these white grains of sand do I have to show you before you believe it's a beach? That's what I want to know.
Fair enough here. Well, thank you very much for the point in the call. You have a good one there.
All right.
I think we got time to squeeze in. Well, I'll tell you what, since we got more callers coming in on the line here right now, again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We're going to queue up a couple more calls on the line here for you. You can still squeeze on if you want to. More of the comments coming in. All that and more coming up after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Yes, I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Back in the saddle here today and taking more of your calls. Phone lines open now. Again, that number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Still seeing some stop-and-go traffic on the I-10 eastbound up in the North Valley due to some road construction. Vinton down to Trans Mountain, a little bit before Trans Mountain with 8-minute delays. On the I-10 westbound, it's some stop-and-go traffic from Trowbridge over to the Spaghetti Bowl and Mesa Street northbound at Donovan Drive. An injury accident there with police on the scene. Take Sunset instead. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. If your business is feeling a summer hiring wave, then you need Indeed. Their all-in-one hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
When it comes to shopping for windows and doors, we've done the research for you and only carry the best. Choose Milgard at the Window Depot. The pros at the Window Depot are here to help with an array of choices from Milgard. Everything from in-stock windows and doors to custom orders. Milgard offers vinyl, fiberglass, and aluminum products built to your specifications. Visit thewindowdepot.com to find a location near you. That's thewindowdepot.com. Our stores are open Monday through Saturday, but we also offer online ordering and no-contact delivery. The Window Depot, Arizona's largest supplier of Milgard windows.
Hey El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We make car buying fun, fast, and easy, and our goal is to ensure everyone gets the lowest price possible with exceptional trade-in values.
At Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, no one pays over MSRP on every new car, truck, and SUV in stock. Plus, save big on every certified pre-owned vehicle. For a limited time, get 0% APR for 60 months on the all-new 2022 full-size Wagoneer SUV with third row seating. Get up to $8,000 off select new Ram trucks or super low 2.9% APR for 72 months. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make This the Summer event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $16.67 and 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined. Excludes Hellcat, SRT, and TRX models.
Is it senior abuse at this point? Coming up on the Ben Ferguson podcast, Joe Biden clearly has lost his cognitive function. He's basically like a child. So why are we allowing his family to exploit him for their financial gain? I'll explain it. Download the Ben Ferguson podcast now.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to chime in on the show, particularly as we do have those phone lines open, and of course the comments coming in through always Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, and that phone number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Full up at the moment, but we'll get to them in as due order as we can. At least some of the questions coming in. James Radcliffe asking about the situation involving those potential charter amendments, saying, aren't they, City Council, violating the charter? So if they were just saying unilaterally, by the way, the veto's gone, yes, but this is one of the, again, many things that will probably be on the ballot for you come November. So it won't even just be candidates on the ballot, but also these issues changing the way the city functions. Among some of the other ones being discussed here do also include the way petitions, particularly charter amendment petitions, could even be effectuated in the future, which would affect some of the ones we've even discussed here on the program. So it'll be worthwhile to keep your eye out for it. And as we get closer to that and the ballot starts getting set, we'll definitely be talking about what's going to be on it here. And Flocking Men is asking, either way, shouldn't it be up to the voters to alter the city charter? Yes, this is one of the two major ways that it comes out. These recommendations coming out of the ad hoc charter advisory committee, the recurring body about every 10 years or so, if I'm not mistaken, that is convened, and then the recommendation sent to city council, and then city council votes on whether they want to put it to the voters or not. So it pays to pay attention to what's going to be on the ballot. We'll definitely be talking a whole lot more about this. More comments coming in about some of our other commentators. among other things, Victor Navarrete talking about that the situation involving AOC and the protests and arrests going on there. Also dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Calvin Williams, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. We'll talk more about those kind of things, but let's get at least a couple more calls on the line, or what we can anyway, before we hit that top of the hour news break. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Johnny in Central on the line here with us right now. Johnny, thanks for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon. It's been a while since I had a chance to listen in, roughly a couple of weeks, so excuse me if I'm behind times on my questions and our comments.
Okay.
I remember last time I listened, you had a gentleman on. He was a airline pilot. I don't know if you remember, and he had some good comments. He was saying he went somewhere and people approached him about having a flag at a picnic or something. You remember that phone call?
Yes, I do recall it.
So many.
Yeah.
Well, I think that gentleman was evenly right down the middle. I wish if you had enough people like that on both sides of the aisle who were willing to talk and listen with a capital L, I think this country and also some of the people here in town would be able to understand what's going on around the country. Someone also people just throw stuff out there without even really getting right. I also recall the last time I listened in, someone was trying to throw some blame at Ann Richards for causing the cheat was not to be able to open up Speeding Rock. Well, that's not true. I remember that was John Cornyn, who was the Attorney General back then. He's the one that caused the Ticos all those problems. It wasn't Ann Richards. As a matter of fact, I remember it happened, but I also did the research to confirm what I had thought. So people should not just throw stuff out there like that. And lastly, did I understand you to say that you do not listen to these hearings that's going on?
I've been listening in as they come up. I'm often, particularly during the week, a little bit more focused on what we got going on locally and directly affecting us here in the borderland, but they're kind of hard to ignore. I'll say that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I thought you said that you wasn't listening at all. I was going to say that people who have the microphone, like yourself, who's a radio host, you guys should go, listen at everything. I'm glad to hear that you are listening in. Well, to me, it's riveting. I hadn't planned on listening because I do have a lot of business stuff going on throughout my day, but it's very riveting. And what got my attention for the listeners out there who are not listening for whatever reason, the witnesses are coming on were all pro-Trumpers at the time. They were either in his cabinet or they were working for him or whatever, and also the Attorney General out of Georgia and also some of the poll workers. So it wasn't like it usually is, people who were against him, but these are all people who supported him. So I think if people are not listening, they should. They should really zero in on the one that's happening tomorrow night.
Fair enough. Yep, I'll probably be paying attention to the same kind of order there. So thank you very much for the point in the call. I do appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Bye.
All right. We got to take that next break right now, just due to the top of the hour and needing to get there. So we got more calls on the line, and we'll keep getting to those. And if you want to get on the line yourself, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Getting some notices here about maybe needing to conserve energy in our area. Get into that here a little bit more after this breaking, and stay tuned. More Talk El Paso, top of the hour news. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Still seeing some stop-and-go traffic on the I-10 eastbound up in the North Valley due to some road construction. Vinton down to Trans Mountain, a little bit before Trans Mountain with 8-minute delays. On the I-10 westbound, it's some stop-and-go traffic from Trowbridge over to the Spaghetti Bowl. And Mesa Street northbound at Donovan Drive, an injury accident there with police on the scene. Take Sunset instead. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
Stay informed at KTSMradio.com.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities.
If you see something, say something.
News on the hour and the half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The House January 6th committee is raising concerns about Secret Service cell phone data. The panel released a statement indicating they may have gone against federal record-keeping laws. The chairman and ranking member said they're assessing records released in response to the committee subpoena and are seeking additional Secret Service records. The U.S. Defense Secretary says Russia's reckless war of choice hasn't broken the will of Ukrainians.
We're going to keep moving at the speed of war. We're going to make clear that might does not make right.
Lloyd Austin also called the Russian invasion cruel and corrupt. He noted ongoing security and humanitarian assistance from the U.S. and its allies. Former President Donald Trump is among the mourners today at Ivana Trump's funeral in New York City. Jennifer Polsoni reports.
Former President Trump seen going into a side entrance of the historic St. Vincent Ferrer Catholic Church on the Upper East Side at the invite-only service for his ex-wife Ivana, mother to his 3 eldest children. Donald Jr., Eric, and Ivanka Trump were seen waiting outside as Ivana's casket was taken into the church. Ivana and Donald very much a part of New York high society and the tabloids back in the 80s. Though they divorced in the early 90s, they most recently remained close and reportedly talked often. Ivana passing away last week at the age of 73 following an accidental fall at her Manhattan home.
Earnings reports are helping boost the market as the session ended with all 3 major indexes higher. Investors are hoping these moves mean the market has found its bottom. The Dow gained 47 points to close at 31,874. President Biden's approval rating is hitting a new low. Just over 31% of American adults approve of the job Biden is doing and 60% disapprove. That's according to a Quinnipiac University poll. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Flood repairs are still ongoing in parts of Virginia's capital. Richard Stelling has more.
Residents in Buchanan County are still cleaning up from flood damages sustained last week. The Virginia Department of Emergency Management says that 33 properties were completely destroyed by the flood waters. Another 32 are left with major damage, while more than 24 properties have minor damage. Officials are still considering if they will request federal assistance to help recover from the storm.
The man who was leading the Aurora, Colorado Police Department at the time of a mass shooting that killed 12 people is reflecting on the attack 10 years later. Former Chief Dan Oates tells KUSA-TV the 2012 shooting at the Century 16 Theater in Aurora was the most significant event in his career. Officials are reporting overdose cases are on the rise in the second most populated metro Atlanta county. More from Liz Kennedy.
The Gwinnett County Police Department is trying to be proactive by making Narcan more available after responding to at least 41 overdose emergencies just this month. According to Narcan's website, the nasal spray is used as an opioid overdose reversal medication. Police also remind folks that they will not arrest anyone at the scene of an overdose because of Georgia law. The Gwinnett County PD also recommends taking free Narcan training if you plan on having any Narcan on hand.
A California dog is being called a hero after helping rescue a man who fell 70 feet down a cliff in Tahoe National Forest. KCRA in Sacramento says a border collie named Saul led the search and rescue team directly to his owner after the 53-year-old man plunged off a cliff in a remote section of the forest last week. A team of 25 volunteers followed the man's last cell phone signal to a nearby location where they found his dog. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Green.
That's green. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries. Wendy's knows everyone hates cold and soggy fries, so they changed theirs to serve them up hot and crispy all day, every day, using only natural cut skin-on fries, prepared to golden goodness and perfectly sprinkled with sea salt. Try Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries today at participating U.S. Wendy's.
Hey Texas, this is Eric Burton.
And I'm Adrian Casada, and we are Black Pumas. We've partnered with Don't Mess with Texas to turn up the message to keep Texas clean.
So come on, join hands and let us be united. Let's all do our part in taking care of our beautiful state roads.
It's time to step up. Together, we can keep Texas litter-free.
Don't mess with Texas, y'all. Peace.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
What can you hear on the free iHeartRadio app? Well,
Let's do it.
everything. Tap radio to listen to live radio stations from across the country and around the world. Need a playlist to fit your mood or set the mood? We got them, from working out to chilling out and everything in between. And nobody has more podcasts than the free iHeartRadio app. Uncover unbelievable true crime stories or laugh out loud comedy podcasts from the biggest names in the business. Download the free iHeartRadio app now and discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690 KTSM, an iHeart radio station. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media outlets we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we're talking about here today, and immigration coming up. Calvin Williams pointing out over on the social media statement that's come out recently that 11 of the 53 migrants who died after being found inside a hot 18-wheeler truck in June in San Antonio had, quote, serious criminal records in the U.S., end quote, Congressman Henry Cuellar told Border Report on Wednesday. Yeah, this is another one of those reasons. I mean, usually highlights two of the important aspects of having border control, knowing who was crossing the border in all circumstances, both for safety issues. I know there was also Texas Senator, not Cruz, the other one, Cornyn, talking about how, the perspective on this current administration, not a great thing and perspective there, but more specifically about also knowing who is coming in and for what purposes. I mean, let's just say that this doesn't diminish it as any more of a tragedy. Even in our most serious and severe sentencing, would we never consider such a circumstance? And the fact that it happened, still completely awful. And we're still seeing other circumstances, including other things here in our area with our news partners over at KFOX 14 reporting that Border Patrol agents in the El Paso sector discovering 103 migrants, 3 stash houses in one day. So to think that patterns aren't continuing to shift and respond to even enforcement efforts would be a mistake, among other things. But it's seriously a big issue there. And Andrew's ignorant asking, sick from too much Takis and beer. I mean, I can never get sick of too much of that myself, even if that's an issue for you. But no, I mean, we got allergies out there, all this rain. We're getting hit by some right now here at our offices, could even in this windowless room hear it a little bit going on there. So, I mean, if you're drinking too much and having too many Takis, making yourself sick, maybe cut back a little bit would be my advice for you, among other things. But also just as a reminder that maybe consider I know that El Paso Electric's responding to at least one outage in the area right now. So some conservation of electricity might be a good idea for right now, because, I mean, there are resources available, but making sure that it stays on is an important duty. So turn off lights in a room, you're not using them, etc. All radio is a pretty low battery draw issue, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, a lot more comments coming in over on the social media there. Again, dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Calvin Williams, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes, along with some of the many comments coming in here. Go and see the Thunderdome comments coming in from the Skeptic Squad for yourself there, but also those phone calls. Full up at the moment, but if you want to squeeze it on the line, the number to call there is 915-544-5876. 915-544-KTSM. Let's go back to some of those here right now. We do have Marco over in Central on the line with us right now. Marco, thanks for joining us.
How's it going, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
So you were over there at the Veto O'Rourke's event?
I was not. No, I wasn't.
Let me. Like the words, Andrew. You know, has anybody ever told you there's a show that comes out on Adult Swim, the Tim and Eric show?
Oh.
And you look like Eric. Like, I swear to God, you look just like him.
I've been told. Apparently, I have one of those faces, but all right, go ahead.
No, the reason here's the reason I'm calling, and I wanna. How can I say this to be fair? Because I don't wanna say something, and obviously I'm calling you, so I don't want to sound like a jackass.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just state the reality and the obvious here, okay? I'm going to make this statement, but then obviously understand this, Andrew. You know, there's certain media outlets that I don't view in that manner because of the format. Mm-hmm. But in all honesty, man, the media is poison in America. They really are. Just the View today, they're trashing that young man that saved all those people in the mall. Even locally, the girl that comes out every hour on the hour, she's like, Beto O'Rourke, is moving up on the polls, and I'm like, what polls? Even I don't care what poll you look at. Like, let's say the poll says he's going up 10 points. Why does anybody think that Robert Francis O'Rourke is going to have a chance to win in Texas? And I'm not being like, this isn't hyperbole. Let's go point by point. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
He says, oh, look at what happened in Uvalde. Dude, you're the poser who went over there pointing fingers as the mayor of Uvalde called you an SOB and get out of there because you look dumb. You literally look like such a poser going over there pointing your finger. This is on you. No, bro, this is on you because your party wants to take guns away from law-abiding citizens. That's on you. Let's go to another point. Oh, I would tear down the walls, and as he's shaking and sticking his nose over a wall like a creep. Well, guess what? It's your party that's tearing this country apart. I mean, there are so many illegals coming in. Okay, here's a report that came out on Tucker Carlson yesterday. George Soros is funding a legal fund to give most of these illegals legal representation. George Soros. You know who gave money to Beto, to Robert Francis O'Rourke? George Soros. Don't tell me that there's no interest in degrading our country and just smashing it. I mean, come on here. Let's go another one. What is Robert Francis O'Rourke going to do when how is he even going to govern? Let's say he wins. Okay, he wins. Hey, yay, Beto won. What are you going to do? How are you even going to get anything done, considering that the bulk of the state is Republican? So it's like I always say, you can't. Oh, and here's another one that I like. The lady on your news network said a hot topic things like abortion, guns, and the border. Okay, well, guns. Obviously, Beto doesn't want anybody to own any guns other than squirt guns. The border, Beto doesn't like the wall, so he wants everybody to come in here. And then abortion. Beto, your party is pushing for late-term abortion and infanticide. You know what I find fascinating? There's this debate in America about left versus right. And I'm like, dude, the debate shouldn't be about left versus right. It should be about right versus wrong. How can it be okay to murder a baby in the late term? Just that alone. And so then it's like this. Ready? You look at every city that's failing, Democrat. Why would you want to go there? Look at California. It's a dump. There's so many homeless in Los Angeles. It literally looks like cyberpunk Fantasyville out there. You cannot, if you go there, you can, it's so unbelievable. It leaves you in awe. If you go to San Francisco, people are literally taking, like, they're taking craps in the street in front of people. They do not care. And so we have our, trust me, I'm in the downtown area. We have our own homeless problem. So you know what we do in El Paso? I don't even want to tell you what we do in El Paso, but I'll just tell you this. Those homeless people do not stay in El Paso very long, okay? For whatever reason, I don't want to go into it, but I tell you this. The homeless issue in El Paso does not stay very long because for some reason or another, thank God, we don't permit that kind of insanity to last. So look at the place like Austin, where there it's like, oh, it's okay if you go build 10 encampments in Memorial Park. Imagine if we had that here. I mean, as much as I trash the city council, at least they don't do that and say, hey, if you're homeless, go ahead and go build encampments in Memorial Park. I mean, that's the level of insanity. And honestly, I'm going to leave you with this point. If the Republicans were serious about governing in Texas, what they would do, because right now, the way it's functional is that all laws have to come from Austin, right? So they have to come out of the legislation. They should ban, the Republicans should move to ban city managers in all the cities. Straight up, get rid of them. And let the city council members start governing, because they're going to get rid of the veto for Mayor Leeser. What a joke. If you on the city council want to get rid of his veto, then you all should get to work and start legislating and doing your job instead of passing the buck off to somebody else. Because just to say, hey, Mayor Leeser, we don't like the fact that you veto our friend and we can't give him $450,000, well, too damn bad. Because at least we have a sound mind and they're going, hey, guys, this doesn't look too good that we're giving money away to this manager while everybody else is struggling along. Do you people go and see the food lines, for Pete's sake? And they want to talk about January 6th. They want to talk about this is ridiculous. Anybody who believes that a fat orange man reached across a limousine to grab the steering wheel is an idiot, okay? Anybody who believes that Donald Trump tried to become some last action hero to grab the steering wheel in his limo, you're dumb. Straight up, you're living in Fantasyville. Let's get back to reality, because all those issues don't matter while the country that you live in is crumbling before you.
I'll definitely agree with you on the idea of bringing it back to reality. That's something that I would like to focus on, because outside of any particular issue, the amount of focus on partisan issues, red meat for bases, etc., has, I think, gone almost a step too far and beyond it. Okay, what actually needs to be done, whether it's popular or not, whether it'll, be in favor of the people that you expect to support you or not, right, as kind of as you said, right, and what needs to be done should be more clear than that. And again, this will, at this point, scheduled to then come up to a vote between you and me, between the citizens, the voting public of El Paso. So again, just as a gentle reminder, make sure you are registered to vote, because if you're not going to be a part of that conversation. But also, to a large extent, how they're actually managing it. And to the idea of the Texas legislature coming in and removing city managers, I mean, there have certainly been ways that the state of Texas, the state legislature, governor, etc., have definitely been willing to step into local ordinances, but usually in a much more restrained way. And one of the things that come up was fracking bans. I don't remember the exact cities in Texas that do it, but that there were some that put in place saying we don't want fracking within city limits. And essentially the state legislature and the governor came in and said, well, you were removing your power to say that you can or can't do that. Energy production is important in Texas, I think, was essentially what they were saying at the time. And so there's some precedent for them doing that, but I guess it would really depend on how much they like or don't like that. So I would be surprised if they take that step, but it's not entirely off the table there. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. Let's get to at least one more before we hit that next break right now. We do have Raul in the Northeast in line with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. I commend our Congressman and AOC and the other congresswomen who got arrested while protesting in front of the Supreme Court for women's rights. Right on, ladies. Reports are that Trump may be announcing he's running for president again in an effort to forestall a Department of Justice opening an investigation on him close to upcoming elections. They supposedly have some kind of rule there that Barr wrote up. You'd have to be nuts to think that America needs that traitorous moron as president again. And I'd like to address Trumper Barbara and her fellow lemmings in Trump's cult repeated claim that President Biden is mentally incapable of being the president of the United States. They're calling him senile. Now, I'd like to address that in conjunction with the near-record summer heat being suffered in Oklahoma City, Dallas, South Dakota, Kansas, and sometimes here in El Paso. Dallas is suffering from extreme heat in the 105-degree temperatures. I lived in Dallas for several years, and it's like a steam bath there. It's just not hot. It's humid as heck. And the temperature is expected to surpass 110 degrees in some United States states. They're saying that nearly 69 million Americans are facing the risk of dangerous heat exposure and related heat illnesses. And across the Atlantic, the same weather pattern has broken centuries-old records in Europe. London is suffering from record-breaking heat, 30 degrees higher than they're used to on average. They're saying the country wasn't built for such temperatures and that about 70% of the residents there don't have any air conditioning. They're freaking out over there. This destructive and deadly anthropogenic global climate change is brought to humanity by the energy plutocrats and their purchased politicians, courtesy of the same capitalist mindset that allows the sale of deadly tobacco and weapons of mass destruction like assault rifles, and at one time slavery. Now talking about the president's mental capacity, twice impeached and the failed former president Donald Trump called global warming a hoax, a Chinese hoax invented by the Chinese. And he also called the COVID a hoax by the Chinese. And he said that it would miraculously go away by itself soon after it was discovered. It killed over 1 million Americans. So Barbara and her fellow Trumpers talking about President Biden's mental capacity is hypocritical. Have they forgot or overlooked Trump's declaration of falling in love with a communist dictator of North Korea? Kim, who he had previously threatened to rain fire and fury on? Hey, Barbara, you hypocrite, fan of cheater and serial sexual assaulter Donald Trump, her claim and that of her fellow Trumpers that President Biden is mentally not up to the job of being president, they back that up with a claim because he's made some verbal flubs. Now, by the way, before Trump announced he had fallen in love with commie dictator Kim had called Trump a dotard, which is a foolish old man. Now, anyone who speaks a lot will have flubs and bloopers. They have a whole TV programs of bloopers and flubs. The best actors and reporters make them regularly. And I've heard President Biden talk on numerous occasions, and he speaks well for someone who grew up with a stutter. And as a former manager, trainer, and instructor, I regularly spoke in front of groups. And I have found President Biden to be a good speaker and a well-informed executive. Now, as to his who has his head screwed on tighter, President Biden or the twice impeached unelected incumbent Trump, back on December 5th of 2019, almost 2 years before Trump's coup and the deadly attack on the Capitol took place, 350 psychiatrists and mental health professionals signed and mailed a letter to Congress claiming that Trump's mental health was deteriorating dangerously. And listen what they said. This is prescient. He said, "We are convinced that Donald Trump has the real potential to become ever more dangerous, a threat to the safety of our nation."
Okay, so we're going to be going on about doing this armchair quarterbacking of someone else's mental health, and I think there's a fair point to be made here that none of anyone who signed this letter was also not an actual in a treatment capacity over this. It's often long been said by those in the mental health profession that they will not choose to diagnose someone who is not immediately in their care, and that's why I dislike it regardless of the administration. So we're going to call that hypocritical and then say, but it's fine here. That's why I have not been a fan of it regardless, and have made that pretty clear. So to say that, well, it's fine when they say it about the guy I like, but not the guy I don't like. Yeah, let's look back at that phrase about hypocrisy here. I mean, seriously, to talk about anyone's mental state and not be a mental health professional yourself, it's so easy to say, oh, that guy's crazy. And I prefer to look at what they're doing, what is actually coming out of it, and is it actually working out enough? Again, not going to try and say, what I think the mental state of any elected official is, but let's look at how it's being received. The focuses of this administration are decently clear, but the fact that they're MIA on certain issues, certain very big policy issues, including some serious ones affecting us here. I mean, okay, if you really want to get down to brass tacks about what policies we're looking at from this administration, there are certain things that they have not been present enough on, and that is, again, more or less, very much so, I would say, actually present when it comes to those approval rating numbers, including the newest ones coming out here today, showing some of the lowest ratings here at about 31% of Americans now approving, according to that Quinnipiac poll, with more than 70% don't want the president to run for a second term in the White House. You may like his speaking style or not, however much you want. The amount of anytime it's focused on flubs as opposed to substance of what is being said, it's so much, well, essentially tabloid journalism is the way I put at it. Going for substance over style is the way it should be and often is not done. But you're, of course, entitled to your opinion about these things. But again, to say that, well, anyone saying that they're looking at their mental health capacity is wrong, but let's look at the one I want to. It smacks a little bit of the same way here. I gotta say that. So we're gonna move on from that point here. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. We gotta keep that next break going right now. So if you want to call in during the show, we do, of course, have those phone lines open. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We'll be back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
If you're on the I-10 westbound this afternoon in this rainy traffic, you know what I'm talking about already. Delays from a crash at Reynolds. It's a stop and go all the way back to Geronimo with 7-minute delays. Got stop and go traffic on Liberty Expressway from Constitution to the Loop with 5-minute delays. Border Highway eastbound at Gateway. A stalled truck is blocking the right shoulder. And an injury accident in North Carolina west of North Loop. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Find yourself going through life ignoring the totals on your receipts? Oh, I can't bring myself to look. We've got your shot at $1,000 with Inflation Vacation. Listen every hour from 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays for your chance to win $1,000.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour, 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays on News Talk 690 a.m.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
You know about our great deals on windows and doors. And now the Window Depot has everything for your complete home remodel. The Window Depot is a one-stop warehouse with the lowest prices and biggest inventory on in-stock butcher block, granite and quartz countertops, plus flooring and tile to finish your project. We also offer a huge selection of in-stock cabinets, or our designers can special order your cabinetry in a variety of colors and styles. Stores are open Monday through Saturday, but we also offer online ordering and no contact delivery. The Window Depot, more than a window store.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try Ziprecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. Ziprecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. We cover quite a lot of ground in pretty much every time we get on the air here. Glad to be back in the saddle here today, but we have got a lot more we will try to get to here. Anyway, if you want to get on the line, full up at the moment, but that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. A lot of comments coming in, including James Radcliffe, not even something I would necessarily disagree with, saying all politicians should be checked for their mental state, particularly sociopathy. Yeah, you'd probably disqualify a lot of politicians from office, let's be honest. But as much as I would be totally in favor of such a thing happening, let's all also freely admit that whatever party is in power would invariably, whenever they come into power, immediately turn that to their advantage or disadvantage of the other party more specifically, and just politicize the hell out of it. So yes, I'd love for that to even be in place for voters, but let's just say, well, anytime we've seen that in place, poll taxes, poll tests, that kind of thing, not exactly a good history of actually making sure it's people being able to do it, as opposed to, quote unquote, making sure the right people can do it. And yes, it's a fraught history. So yes, as much as I'd love to be saying that could happen, men are not angels, and anything they can eventually will be politicized. So I'm going to call that one a no for right now. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines here again. The number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Kevin on the east side here with us right now. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. This has been a pretty funny show. I would like to voice my opinion about trying to keep the program local. We have enough people from Glenn Beck through Hannity, through Levin, through you name it, talking about national issues and things like that. We need more emphasis from the callers, and excuse me if I'm stepping on toes there with them, but I would like to see more emphasis on what's actually affecting us here in El Paso. There's only so much we can do as citizens. We can vote for one guy, we can vote for the other, but as far as getting things done that are really going to affect us locally, we need to clean that up a little bit, and we need to keep the show, in my opinion, focused on local issues. An example of this would be the comments that were made about El Paso water, and then, of course, electric. These things reminds me of the old commercial they had about the Maytag repairman, that he never got a call. Why? Because everything was working. I'd like to see some of our utilities down here take a hint from that. Say, okay, we have questions about people getting the wrong bill, the wrong amount on their bill, et cetera, et cetera. But maybe a separate line or a separate number we could punch to report on things that affect more than them individually. And I think they could, the utilities could take a good example from the Maytag repairman. Get it fixed, and then we'll move on to other things. That's all I got, Andrew.
Well, I appreciate the point there. And yeah, the idea of it being almost too rare to keep anyone on staff, the repair needs for utility, is a beautiful idea, one I'd be very much in favor of. And again, I'm aware of at least one issue going on with El Paso Electric right now, and a little bit of asking for maybe some conservation of energy at this point. I know there are some outages happening in the area, and they say they've got crews responding, but making sure that you do your own due diligence is definitely a good thing. And one other point I want to make, just since you brought it up there, about what was going on with the wait times for El Paso Water and their call lines. El Paso Water, actually, in reference to a Stephania story that we talked about this week and aired last week, they've gotten several hundred more applications for people to join their call center staff. So hopefully, again, this is one of the best outcomes we can really hope for whenever we're talking about local issues, that some attention is paid, some people take action, and the thing ends up getting fixed. That's the most I hope for, or at least can hope for in any circumstance. But it highlights your point that talking about local things, there's a reason we call this Talk El Paso, not just because we just want to talk about only El Paso. I mean, I take it more regionally, our broadcast area essentially, which goes further than you might think, but also if we're not going to talk about these things, no one else is going to. But as you also point out, a lot of other people are going to talk about the national things. Of course, we have Fridays, as we do, to that local pressure relief valve. But that's why we focus on what we do and why we try to, but we also do take those calls. A balance has to be struck. I'll fully agree with you.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the point in the call. You have a good one there, too.
Bye.
All right. We got to take that next break right now. Got a little bit long with some of our segments. So getting back on track, taking that break, and getting back to the phone lines here. Again, if you want to chime in on the show, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olgain with your KFOX 14 News Update. Topping our news today, a 15-year-old was rescued at the El Paso Greyhound bus station, and a man was arrested accused of kidnapping the teen. El Paso FBI agents arrested Roman Gwynn. They found him with the teenager at the Greyhound bus station in central El Paso on Monday. The El Paso FBI had received notice from the Cincinnati FBI office regarding Gwynn's possible route to San Diego via El Paso. A man was arrested and accused of robbing a smoke shop at gunpoint. It happened Saturday at the Spot Smoke Shop on Pebble Hills. Officers arrested 31-year-old Wayman Cheatham. Officials say that Cheatham walked into the store and committed the robbery at gunpoint. Officials found his vehicle on Monday and arrested him shortly thereafter. He is being charged with aggravated robbery. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olgain.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
A crash on the I-10 westbound at Reynolds. Not exactly what we needed this rainy weather, but it is blocking the right lane and causing a backup to Geronimo with 8-minute delays right now. Got big delays on the northeast part of the valley, too. It's Spur 601, Liberty Expressway from Global Reach over to the Loop, 18-minute delay. Stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder border highway eastbound at Fonseca. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We continue to deal with some very hot temperatures, but moisture has now returned, and that will bring a little more cloud cover, and that along with some rain-cooled air, we could be looking at some much cooler temperatures as we get going through the week. But still, tonight will be another very hot area for the borderland, and then as we get through the next few days, expect cooler temperatures. Log on to kfoxtv.com for the very latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries. Wendy's knows everyone hates cold and soggy fries, so they changed theirs to serve them up hot and crispy all day, every day, using only natural cut skin-on fries, prepared to golden goodness and perfectly sprinkled with sea salt. Try Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries today at participating U.S. Wendy's.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
Staples has everything you need for school at prices that won't hold you back. Right now, Staples comp books and number 2 pencils are just 50 cents, and 2 pocket paper folders at just 25 cents each. In-store only, offer ends 8/27, limit 30. Don't send your kids back to school. Send them forward at Staples. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social pages. A lot of people chiming in there, tuning in there, and also got those phone lines open as well. If you want to squeeze in on that avenue, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Some interesting comments coming there, particularly in light of our last caller's comments. Again, I take criticism, praise, all of it, feedback in general in stride, because I think it's important to do so. Ed Clore saying, think globally, act locally. Pretty good slogan to follow here. And then also Calvin Williams saying, it's just sometimes national events affect us locally. And that's why, among other things, we will draw down those things, particularly if local people are involved or it has immediate effects here. But also, yeah, we do get a little bit far afield sometimes. I feel like it's happened more lately. I guess I'm usually loath to pull back on commentary because talking about all of it is, well, what we're here for every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., just more specifically on Fridays. If you got those big national things, international, off the wall, not locally based, etc., that's the time we have for that. But, I mean, we got a lot more to discuss here. So let's go back to those phone lines here right now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We also have people dropping those likes and reacts, including Ted Kors, Louis Pinato, Calvin Williams, Flaque Menace, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. Do appreciate it. We do have right now on the line, we have Barbara on the west side with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make a few comments on voting.
Sure.
And the irregularities in the 2020 election. And I think I said it before. They have confiscated or seized 3 tabulation machines in Michigan because unauthorized parties had access to the machines. And this is coming from a Democratic Secretary of State. And she believes there will be more machines seized because of information that they've recently received. And then recently in Yuma, they just, a Democrat admitted that she was ballot harvesting, and she was a powerful Democrat in the community. So these are things that we need to take seriously. In Wisconsin, nursing homes, several nursing homes are being investigated because their votes were cast, and these people were not even cognizant of what they were doing. Fulton County in Georgia, chain of custody problems. I've been a county judge, a poll judge, and I know the significance of the claim of custody. So these are not just national issues, they're local, and they affect elections. And you know what? Regarding, we shouldn't talk about national things and just local things. We're not an island. What happens in D.C. affects us directly. Let's talk about our border. The president goes to L.A. and has this meeting with these countries, and now they signed an immigration agreement, which affects us directly. So what are they doing? Well, they're saying they're changing their approach to immigration. The countries are not going to recognize the challenges of the entire region. And so this is what they're going to do. Countries that are receiving immigrants are going to receive more support and more protection for immigrants. Where does that leave us? And they spoke specifically about Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, and Mexico. They're taking immigrants. We're taking immigrants from an additional 125 countries besides them. And they're the ones that are getting help. And then they want to extend or increase the number of guest workers. That affects El Paso too. They're bringing them in, they're changing already what our immigration laws are. And now they want to increase guest workers so that they can come illegally, so they can work in the U.S. We're already doing that illegally, and now they want to find a way to do it legally. That affects El Paso. They're even before or shortly before this ended, the critics were already saying that they didn't think anything was going to come out of it, anything meaningful or binding was going to come out of this agreement, because 11 or 12 countries in the Western Hemisphere didn't even show up because of Biden. That affects us. Anything that affects our border affects my tax dollar, affects my pocket, affects my safety, affects my security. And therefore, we need to know what's going on in D.C. regarding immigration. We can't just say, oh, well, that's a federal issue. It doesn't affect us. In fact, everything affects us. When Trump left office, inflation was 1.4, now it's 9.1. That affects us. We need to talk about it, unless we just, like I said, we're not an island of ourselves. Everything that happens is affecting us here at home. And we need to be smart. We need to know who to vote for. And these issues are front and center. Look at O'Rourke. Look at our representative. Look at the county judge. They're all for these progressive agendas that are coming out of where? Washington. It affects us locally. And I'm in tune with the federal government at the federal level. I'm in tune with El Paso at the local level, because that makes an individual, I believe, well-rounded in the politics around us and what's affecting our families.
Let me just say this, that I do not disagree with you on any particular point you've brought up here about, and I hope more people were more informed about the things going on and paying attention to all the levels. But I think in particular light of the previous caller's comments and frustration he was kind of expressing about that, it's that we do get a little bit far afield sometimes. I'm not talking about anyone into particular points in general, but essentially when it comes to talking about, like, say, the January 6th hearings, that gets a little bit hard to draw down to the local level. Yes, we exist in the government that this is talking about the organization of, but in terms of immediate impact, sure, some outcomes of that might come down here. But in terms of what's going to happen right now, I mean, the immigration policy, and longtime listeners of this program would know, we have not shied away from that topic and the developments that have happened here. And of course, what are those immediately going to mean in our area? So talking, I think, a little bit more immediacy and a little bit more urgency, and the things that we can see, handle, and tackle in our area is something that has been, I will freely admit, one of the guiding principles that we have often followed in choosing about what we're going to talk about, what we're going to focus on, and how we develop this show in each and every day. So again, I'm not even necessarily disagreeing with you on any point, but I think that focus is an important one because, as was mentioned, we trust our other radio hosts, particularly on this station, to deal with their issues, but we also need to talk about the things affecting us right here because no one else is going to talk about them the way that we do.
Well, I agree totally with that. And, regarding Raul, I'm not going to get stuck on stupid in the past. So there's no sense in discussing that because, or the other gentleman, somebody said he wanted to argue with me. I don't want to argue with anybody. I want to put the facts out there and you draw a conclusion. I may have a different opinion than you have based on the facts that are out there, but those are facts. I can't change facts, but I can change how I respond to a fact. I may not like a fact, and I don't like a lot of things that the Biden administration is doing, especially when it comes to immigration, because we are not going to have a country. I mean, how many times do I have to say balkanization of our communities, third worldization of the United States of America? If you hear the statistic on who's crossing our bridge, crossing our border, these people, the majority of them do not even have a high school education. They can't speak English. How are they going to integrate into our communities? It's going to take years. And we're letting adults, single male adults, cross our borders. Why? They need to be in their country, learning and bringing their country and their children up and be proud and make change. We're bringing in whole communities. Whole communities are being abandoned in these countries. And that's been happening since Obama's administration. I remember reading about a priest discussing how the community where he is at is been abandoned. Fathers have left their mothers, girls are getting pregnant, boys are going into gangs. This is what we're doing. We are devastating other countries, and we're going to be devastated ourselves. I don't see anywhere that there's a win for anybody because I'm Hispanic. I don't like the idea of people, Hispanics, other countries, like Latinos, whatever, coming into our country. They're downtrodden where they're at, and I can guarantee you the Democratic Party is not going to lift them up. They want them down and dumb. And I'm talking as a Hispanic. And they complain about these Hispanics that never register to vote. They don't learn English because they're not capable of learning English. Some of them don't want to. I've met them here at my house. He's perfectly happy just working in the United States, and he's been here, and he's legal, but he doesn't want to register to vote. He doesn't want the politics of it. Just let me earn a living for my family. My kids will get registered, but I won't. I see that all the time, and I'm Hispanic. I'm not prejudiced. I'm not racist. I love my history, and that's how we feel. If you're going to bring Hispanics and Latinos to the United States of America, then make it better for them. But I know that's not what's going to happen. And that's my history where I came from.
Mm.
If you're not going to improve somebody's life, quit promising them that you will. And that's what we've done. Come on in. We'll find a place for you. There's a place for you to live. There's a place for you to work. That is a lie. This administration has lost a third of the unaccompanied minor children, a third of them in the system. And where are those kids? Many of them, if not the majority, are being trafficked in sex.
Let me just put it this way. I am not aware of anyone, and I don't care what stripe, what denomination, what left, right, whatever, that we're talking about that is particularly happy with the situation that exists on our borders with the immigration system. Now, the way that they want to focus on changing them, that can, of course, vary wildly, but I think there's more than a little bit of, not exactly common ground, but shared frustration with the lack of changes, improvements, etc., that can be seen, frankly, across administrations, because there may have been some incremental change from time over time, but seriously, the amount of things that have been not happening, not being fixed, and you can go back, not even recently, but over many different generations of, well, generations literally, but also different terms of office, has been seriously bad. Like, it's just, the border issue has been a cross-party issue for a long time, and I think a comprehensive solution is probably the only way through it, but getting to a comprehensive one and not focusing on just one way or the other is an increasing problem there. So often share your frustration. I think you would find most people in this community, if not across the country, would share the same level of frustration, even if, again, the specifics may vary. I'm not going to say that this is a kumbaya, all join hands kind of movement, because we know it's not. But then just, that's why we need to talk about it. So let's be honest. And that's one of the reasons we do what we do here, because just saying that, well, I'm sure someone will come up with a solution. I don't think that's, well, a lot of ways it's been focused on in the news lately. Expecting someone else to come and rescue us is an unreasonable bound. And it's not going to happen. We are our own rescuers. We need to rescue ourselves and figure out our own ways out of the circumstance. So I appreciate your frustration and share many of them with you. Even if some of the specifics and the way we talk about it may change, we definitely need to keep focusing on it here. So tell you what, I appreciate the point in the call. We got to take that next break right now, and we'll keep talking about this coming into tell you what we got coming up for you on the show, among other things, and get into some of the medical advice that I get going on here. We'll check in on that and a whole lot more. Close out the show coming up with this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Reynolds, a crash there is blocking the right lane and causing delays back to before Geronimo with 5 to 10 minute delays. On the Spur 601 Liberty Expressway, it is slow with 31-minute delays from Global Reach over to the Loop. I-10 eastbound at Patriot, a stalled vehicle is blocking the left shoulder. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
All these moves by the Federal Reserve have caused the great unwind, and I want to make sure you don't get caught in the crosshairs. I'm Mark Moss, each week discussing the decentralized revolution. So join the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You should be able to earn money with your money, and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is a leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
This radio commercial was made to convince you to stop speeding. We can't use siren sound effects on the radio, so we'll use other equally jarring sound effects to get your attention, like telling you that whether you drive a little over the speed limit or a lot, you can crash just the same. You could hurt yourself or worse, others.
I'm at the scene of the collision.
And the damage you cause will be beyond repair. See, we didn't have to use crash or siren sounds after all. Speeding catches up with you. Brought to you by NHTSA.
Staples has everything for school at great prices. So this year you won't go back to school. You'll be ready to move forward and build that papier-mâché volcano.
I am not cleaning this up.
Ooh, yeah, I meant the kids. Staples will help them move forward. Right now, Crayola 10-count markers and 12-count colored pencils are just 99 cents each, and Staples one-subject notebooks are only 35 cents. Everything on your list at amazing prices. Staples, we're not going back. We're going forward to school. Ends 8/27 in-store only, limit 30.
My mom and dad are the best. Ever since they called the early childhood program, I'm doing so much better, and mom and dad don't worry or stress as much as they used to. They seem a bazillion times happier, and all services are free.
Parenting isn't easy, so we signed up for the free early childhood program at the El Paso Center for Children. They taught us how to deal with COVID-19 stress and be better parents. Lots of other free services are available. Call 915-500-4105. That's 500-4105.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I do appreciate all the comments that have come in on the many ways we do this here about my, let's just call it upper respiratory health. I do appreciate it. No, I have not tested positive for COVID. Yes, my last test was yesterday. Yes, I'm getting better. You should have heard me, or rather you didn't, because of how bad it was yesterday, but we're getting over it. Don't worry, and I appreciate all the advice. We should be back for you tomorrow. More talk about some of those immigration issues, among other things, maybe a different take on it this time. I know there's some out there questioning how we go about selecting our topics, but talking about what affects us here in the community is always key to it, and we don't want to actually conversate about that as opposed to, well, as the one term was used, bloviate or preach about it. You're going to find yourself having a better time just in general. But let's squeeze in at least one last call before we hit that, end of the show here. We do have Andrew on the west side here. Andrew, we got about a couple of minutes here.
Yes, I was wondering if you could give me a status on the climate charter initiative that was proposed.
So to my understanding, I saw someone else that it was still moving around. So they're still working on finishing out the signatures, to my understanding, having just run into it. But that's what they said, even when they were on here, when we had that interview, that they'd already reached the threshold. They were essentially just padding it out to make sure if any were questioned or denied, they would still have enough to move forward. So essentially on the trajectory to end up on the November ballot as well.
Well, that's all we need is more bureaucracy in this town.
Well, we'll have a lot of things on the ballot here, and bureaucracy is definitely going to be a good part of it. That's just obvious.
Yes. Well, one last thing. Yes, this is to Comrade Raul. I'm sure he loved Veronica Escobar with her Che Guevara fist in the air.
Fair enough here. A lot being said about that whole protest and everything that came out of it. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. We'll have to leave it there for today because we are out of time here for this program. I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We will do it again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Seriously, everyone, appreciate the calls, the comments, make this show what it is. So stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690
I-10 westbound at Reynolds, a crash there is blocking the right lane and causing delays back to before Geronimo with 5 to 10 minute delays. On the Spur 601 Liberty Expressway, it is slow with 31-minute delays from Global Reach over to the Loop. I-10 eastbound at Patriot, a stalled vehicle is blocking the left shoulder. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. We make car buying fun, fast, and easy, and our goal is to ensure everyone gets the lowest price possible with exceptional trade-in values.
At Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat, no one pays over MSRP on every new car, truck, and SUV in stock. Plus, save big on every certified pre-owned vehicle. For a limited time, get 0% APR for 60 months on the all-new 2022 full-size Wagoneer SUV with third row seating. Get up to $8,000 off select new Ram trucks or super low 2.9% APR for 72 months. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make This the Summer event at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat, where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $1,667 and 2.9% APR is $1,515 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined. Excludes Hellcat, SRT.
News on the hour and the half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. A bipartisan group of senators is reaching a deal to reform election laws following former President Trump's efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential race.